Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. Once again, while I normally do not do this program by myself, my good friend Mike Piwowarski from Arms Room Radio, unfortunately, will not be able to join us today. He is, let's just say he is indisposed, taking care of his aircraft. So, Mike, you are sorely missed for this last show of season 2 for the Rundown. You know, it was funny. I was just looking at it and realized, okay, so this is our 236th episode this year. So last year we did 188. So it's kind of funny when you think about it. We're once again something like 420, I think 424th episode of the program. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun. We very, very much enjoyed doing this program, bringing this program to you. And you folks seem to be enjoying it as well. So this is going to be it. This is going to be our last episode for 2022. When you see us again, well, it won't be until next year. So anyway, nonetheless, let us have some fun today. And I'll tell you what, let's start by giving a quick shout out to our sponsors. And we're going to start with our folks over here at Hitman Industries. That's Hitman Industries. Folks, if you have purchased an AR recently, chances are you already have one of their barrels. But if you haven't, well, why not look to get one? All right, folks, these are top notch. They have both rifle and pistol carryable barrels, as well as other firearm accessories. Folks, I would encourage you, check out hitmanindustries.net. That's how you get there. They are real easy to find. Also, would like to encourage you to visit the California Republican Assembly. I work very, very closely, by the way, with CRA. They are what we like to call the Republican wing of the California Party. And if you noticed, the one reason why we have control of Congress right now is because, California Republicans got elected. And the good thing is, a number of them are CRA-supported candidates. So, folks, if you want to help be a part of California's future, the Republican Party's future, America's future today, then you need to get involved with the California Republican Assembly. All you got to do, once again, is follow the link in the description to this program. Next, I want to invite you to visit Hog Holsters. That's right, Hog Holsters. Folks, if you are looking for a concealed carry holster, I cannot recommend anything better than what Hog Holsters has for you. If you go there, I promise you, you will find your caliber firearm, whatever accessories, whether it's an optic or a light. I promise you they will have what it is that you are looking for, and they can get you set up. And the great part is that if you use the discount code, The Rundown, all one word, all caps, when you check out, you will get a nice little discount there over at Hog Holsters. Check them out at hogholsters.com. And then finally, I want to encourage you to visit uscombatgear.com. If you are looking for tactical gear, outdoor gear, if you're looking for backpacks, if you're looking for boots, helmets, hats, I mean, you name it, they have it, and they have it at a great price, available to the public. Check them out. That's uscombatgear.com. And folks, there it is. These are our sponsors. These are people who bring us to you. And the goal is, quite frankly, that they're hoping that you'll go to them, that we'll bring you to them. So do us a favor. The links to each and every one of their websites is in the description to this program. All you got to do is tap on it, and it'll take you right to their website. Do us a favor, spend some money with them, because I know you're going to like what you see. And when you do, make sure you let them know in your little note field. Tell them that was the guys over at the Rundown that sent you. Also want to encourage you, if you have not already done so, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And encourage your friends to do the same. Let them know about the Rundown. This is the place to get 2A news, conservative views, Monday through Friday. Same bat time, same bat channel, folks. We know the algorithms are going out of their way to make sure that you can't find us just by Googling us. So the best thing is word of mouth. And by the way, word of mouth is always the best advertising. So remember, like, share, subscribe, and encourage your friends to do the same. All right, let's go ahead and let's get into today's stories. This first one in particular really is working my last. Yeah, no, like I said, it's working. It's working my last nerve. Here in the state of California, at one time, we had passed in the 1990s some very, very strict laws, mandatory minimums, three strike laws. We really went after those who were career criminals here in the state of California. And what we saw from that time for about 20 years was basically 20 years of decreasing criminal activity. We saw crime across the board, year over year, went down every single year. Violent crime, property crime, rapes, murders, firearm crimes, and you name it, everything was going down. That's because we were locking criminals up. Then in the early 2000s or the early 2010s, we started to institute this thing in California called being quote unquote smart on crime. And the idea was that, our prisons are way overcrowded, and rather than build new prisons, we're going to start letting criminals out. Now, how are we going to do that? We're going to redefine what felonies are, or what quote unquote violent crimes are. Then we're going to turn around and we're going to let people who are convicted of those crimes, we're going to let many of them, we're going to move some of them to county jail, and then we're going to let some of them out. And then once the county jails are all crowded, then we're going to let them out of there. And for some reason, they seemed to think that they were going to be able to do this and get away with this, and there was going to be absolutely no repercussions. Well, in 2014, we started to see was the beginning of that of a trend in the opposite direction. All of a sudden, we started to see an increase in crime as well as in violent crime, and it's increased every single year up to COVID, which it's just simply exploded. Well, there's an incident that occurred down in Riverside County where a gunman, and I feel very comfortable calling him a gunman. He's not a gunman. He's a murderer is what he is. But he basically he killed a Riverside County deputy sheriff. And this was a guy who should have been in jail serving under 3 strikes. He should have been sentenced and been in jail under 3 strikes. Now, mind you, this was a guy who was let me get down. So this was a guy who was actually out on bail on his 3rd strike, right? So on his 3rd strike, he was out on bail. He should have gone before a judge and been sentenced. He got arrested, right? And the judge, instead of holding him on the bail was something like $1 million. And instead of holding him on $1 million bail, the judge reduced the bail and let him out. He did something. No, they said, okay, they let him out again. This was the guy who would wind up shooting and killing Deputy Isaiah Cordero, who's 32. Once again, was shot during a traffic stop in Jurupa Valley. This happened just yesterday. Folks, this is not the first incident where in the state of California, an individual who should have been in jail, who should have been behind bars, or let me clarify, should have been in prison, was walking the streets and was available to attack and kill somebody. All right, there was a gentleman who was in jail in another county. I believe it was Merced County. I'm not sure if it was that county, but he was in jail in another county for attacking a CHP officer. He got out. They let him out, right? He had been arrested for attacking a California Highway Patrol officer. They let him out. Within 2 weeks, he killed his kids, 2 of his kids, his 2 children, as well as a chaperone a person who was chaperoning his parental visitation, right? Once again, this was a guy who was supposed to be in jail, right? Not long after that, there was an individual who was arrested and convicted 10 years ago of beating his girlfriend, dragging her face down across the pavement. He was convicted and sentenced to 10 years for domestic violence and domestic battery. He served less than half of that sentence. A little over 4 years is what he actually served. And under early release, was released from prison in the state of California. And then guess what? He was involved in a gang-style shooting that took place in the streets of Sacramento, California. That's right, the state capital, where 6 people would wind up losing their lives. I think a total of 16 people were shot. I think 6 people would wind up losing their lives. And once again, this was a guy who was supposed to be in jail. And now we have this particular incident. Now we have just one more incident here. And once again, every instance that I just named you all happened in the state of California. 2 of them in Sacramento County, the county in which I reside. Once again, this has me livid. And somehow, some way, they are blaming the gun. They are still continuing to blame firearms, even though in every single case, these are individuals who should not have had access to a gun. The guy in the first incident, yeah, he was here illegally. And when they released the guy, right? So they released the guy. Under California law, they couldn't call immigration. They couldn't call ICE to come get him. ICE could have come gotten him. He would have been in an ICE detention center, or he would have been in an ICE detention center, or somewhere out of the country. But because we got soft on crime, because we're a sanctuary state, this individual was free to kill 3 innocent people. At what point are California Democrats, or Democrats period, going to realize that if you do not have consequences for bad behavior, then people who are bad actors, I'm not talking about people who get caught up in the system. I'm not talking about people who are one-time offenders. No. I'm talking about people who we know are habitual criminals, people who have broken the law over and over again, or people who, left to their own devices with no consequences, will break the law over and over again. When are we going to realize that if you don't have consequences, then you cannot have a safe community? If people cannot trust that if someone commits a crime against them, that they're going to be punished, here's the other thing that's going to happen. You're going to start to have people taking the law into their own hands. That is exactly what is going to start happening. And it is really kind of sad that we have this going on here, once again, in the state of California. But folks, California is not the only place that it's happening. It's happening in states all across this country. And surprisingly, it's mostly happening in places, that have liberal policies, like sanctuary state policies, like no bail or zero bail policies, or reduced sentencing policies. Those are the places in which these things are in fact happening. The time has come. The social experiment is over. It is time to, and I get you're saying, oh no, less prisons, more schools. No, we need to build more prisons, period. As long as we have people who are going to be bad actors, we need a place to put them when they act up. And I don't think that's very, very difficult to understand. And I want a quick shout out to Mr. Knives. I see you watching us there on YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you got anything to say, got anything to share, please feel free. Drop a comment, and I will make sure to share it with the audience. Well, if it's appropriate, that is. Doesn't have to be an agreement, but as long as it's appropriate. But anyway, so that's our lead story today. It's a sad one. It's one that kind of, like I said, kind of pisses me off, because this, folks, was a preventable death. There's no doubt in my mind that if this judge in particular had done what he was supposed to do and locked this guy up, he would not have been out to be able to do what he did to this officer. My condolences, and our condolences from all of us here at the Rundown, go out to this officer's families. Okay, moving right along. Next, Home Depot founder. Now, mind you, let me clarify. He's the co-founder. He recently went on a rant talking about socialism. And talking about what his real comment had to do with, the land of opportunity, and could someone do what he did? Basically, this was a guy, they started Home Depot from nothing. It was basically a hardware store. They didn't even have enough inventory to fill their store. They would put empty boxes on the shelves in their store to make it look like they had inventory. That's how, that's how, from what small beginnings he began, and he's turned it into a multi-billion dollar operation. Well, recently he came out with some comments talking about socialism. So what were those comments? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. It says billionaire Bernard Marcus warned America that the success that he had as a founder of Home Depot and the success that millions of people have earned for themselves and their families was built on capitalism, not socialism. Now, I don't like to call it capitalism because that's actually a term that was coined, a phrase that was coined by Mr. Karl Marx. I prefer a free market economy. So anyway, there you go. But he's right. It was not founded based on socialism. But then he goes on to say, just give it to me. Send me money. I don't want to work. I'm too lazy. I'm too fat. I'm too stupid, Marcus said, summing up the current anti-work attitudes he saw in the U.S. today. Those comments prompted debates on Twitter, with many users taking potshots at the retired CEO of Home Depot for his appearance, while other users argued that socialism was part of the problem. Now, so here's one guy, Nick Acosta, and he said this guy looks like he hasn't stocked a shelf or driven a forklift in 50. He said he's talking about in 50 years. You know, oh, here we go. Another poster child for privilege and corporate greed, complaining that no one wants to work at unreasonable wages and conditions, more concerned about his personal wealth than others make him wealthy. At POTUS, let's take corporate money out of politics and fix financial monopoly. Now, folks, let me just hip you to a couple of things. Number one, there was a time when he was driving the forklift and he was packing the boxes and he was sweeping the floors because he was the co-founder. He was the owner of the business. That's what you do. What people do when they start a business. I own my own business, right? You take a chance, you take a risk, you invest money, you invest time, you invest energy, you invest resources into making that business successful. Because guess what? If it's not successful, you lose that investment. I've had a business that wasn't successful. And guess what? I learned from it. And that didn't stop me from going out and starting another business. And now guess what? Hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I am a business owner unto myself. But I took that risk. Nobody took that risk for me. Nobody gave me anything. I worked for it. And for some reason, these people seem to have a problem with that. You know, most of the millionaires that exist today were not millionaires a generation ago. In most cases, they started with nothing and created something. Those high income, that highest bracket of earners that you see out there, that when they talk about the rich or the top 1%, most people are not in the 1% year over year. That changes every year because a lot of times they get to be in the 1% because they sold property, they sold an investment, they sold equity that they had in a business. That's how they wound up as a quote unquote 1%er, right? But here's the thing, folks. These are the people who are creating jobs, right? If they are not successful, if he doesn't do what he's doing with Home Depot, then there are not people there to be able to work at Home Depot. Now, to the lady who talked about for jobs no one wants to, well, I'll tell you what, let's do this. How about if he shut down every single Home Depot and we send every single one of their employees to you so that you get to employ them. You get to pay their rent. You get to pay their mortgage. You get to put food on their table. You get to pay their child support. You get to pay their cell phone bill. That's the responsibility that someone like this individual takes on when they start a company, when they take on employees. Right? So get out of here with this madness, with this stupidity. Someone needs to teach you, someone needs to take basic economics 101 and learn that, first of all, under socialism, government doesn't create anything. All they do is redistribute. That's what socialism is the government control over the means to produce. And everywhere socialism has existed, everywhere where it's been the predominant philosophy, hunger, starvation, tyranny have always followed. Always. I dare you to challenge me on that if you do not believe me. Anyway, so that is that particular story right there. Next, now we talked about the spending bill, right? You know that there was a $1.7 billion dollar. No, I'm sorry. It's funny. Billion is a pretty darn big number, and I'm like $1 billion. And then I stopped. I had to catch myself because it wasn't a $1.7 billion dollar spending bill. It was a $1.7 trillion dollar spending bill. That's right. Trillion. 1.7 trillion. 4,100 pages. That basically no one knew what was in it. And we're basically even now still discovering stuff that was buried in this particular bill. It's very much along the lines of what Nancy Pelosi said about Obamacare. You're going to have to pass it in order to find out what is in it. And that's exactly what they did. And they did it with Republicans voting for it as well. Just so y'all know, yes, Republicans did in fact vote to support this massive spending bill. Republicans in the Senate and some Republicans in the House. Grand total of 18. But anyway, it is ridiculous. Well, the President Biden, is on vacation currently in St. Croix. And so in order to sign the bill, well, he obviously could not sign the bill. He couldn't sign the bill because, well, he was on vacation. So what he did was he had the bill flown to him 1,500 miles to St. Croix where he could sign it. Now, it's a pretty big bill, but it's got its own aircraft for them to fly it to St. Croix. Now, mind you, this bill is full of climate change nonsense. Billions of dollars of spending to end what they call the excessive burning of fossil fuels and climate change and yada, yada, yada. And what do they do in order to get it signed? They put it on a plane and they send it to the president. If this is not the height of irony / hypocrisy, I do not know what is. I cannot even begin. If you had asked me to write a Babylon Bee headline about this, making this up, I could not have made a better headline. Babylon Bee could not have made a better headline. The Onion could not have made a better headline, could not have made a better joke of it. Saturday Night Live could not have done a better skit about the stupidity that is, or the hypocrisy and the irony that is the signage of this particular bill. The fact that, once again, it got flown to a luxury villa in the Caribbean where the president is staying with one of his large donors. Now, mind you, I got nothing against the president taking time off for a vacation. And I know some people get all around him. Well, there's emergency. There's an emergency. Folks, when you're president of the United States, there's always an emergency. I got no problem with that. But I do have a problem with you, an airplane for a friggin' bill. It's a big bill, so it got a big plane. Anyway, I know. I'm just rambling now. I'm just venting, and I thank you. This is very therapeutic, this opportunity to be able to, kind of share and vent with y'all. So thank you so very much. But once again, if they ever tell you, if this White House ever tells you that they care anything about the environment, please let this show you what it means. It means that they get to do whatever they want, right? They get to fly jets all over the world or all over the country as many times and wherever they want because, well, they are who they are. I mean, they're smarter than us. They're brighter than us. They're more valuable than us. Their time is more valuable than our time. So clearly they, the left, get to do that. The Al Gores and all of them, they get to do that. But now the average person, me and you, well, No, we're the ones who need to understand, and we're the ones that need to cut back on where we travel and how we travel. We're the ones that need to give up our jobs so that a tadpole can propagate and wherever my place of business might be. Yeah, we're the ones who are supposed to be subject to this stuff. In other words, what is good for thee is not good for me. All right, now the next item on here, the one that I wanted to talk about, has to do with, also has to do with the $1.7 trillion spending bill. And the fact, like I told you, we don't even know what's in it. Well, we do know one thing that's in it, and that's a whole boatload of money for gun control. Now, you know that if they're filling a bill full of earmarks, which, by the way, for those of you who are Republicans who signed this bill, you do know that your caucus is against earmarks. Well, yeah, you guys got your pork. But anyway, a big part of this bill, one of the things that was included, and plus me, with $1.7 trillion, it probably isn't a huge percentage of the bill, but it's a lot of money. But what it does include is a whole bunch of gun control. And thanks to Gun Owners of America, they have kind of released some information. They've had a chance to read some of the gun control that does exist in this particular measure. And, let's just talk a little bit about what is in there. Once again, bill is over 4,000 pages. Here we go. So it says here, among these are funding that could be used to promote and fund red flag laws in numerous states. Now, mind you, red flag laws, that's the gun confiscation program where you've committed no crime, but they get to come and take your guns because someone said you were a danger. You don't get to go to court. You don't get to go to court before your rights or your guns are taken away. They generally just come and snatch your guns. Anyway, that's red flag laws. That's what we're talking about here. Increased funding for the ATF, and you all know, or AFT. That's what the president calls it, AFT. We all know that a lot of things that ATF has been doing lately is political and about infringing upon our rights, not the administration of our nation's firearms laws. That's what they're supposed to do, and it would be nice if they were doing that. I don't know that people would have an issue with them getting a little more funding if it wasn't being used as the Democrats' official arm of gun control. Anyway, and then it also includes gun violence programs. Now, they never really tell you what gun violence programs are, but invariably what they wind up becoming, what these gun violence programs are, is they are basically organizations like Giffords, like the Giffords, I forget what they call the Giffords thing. It just all of a sudden just slipped my mind. But the Giffords Law Center, that's it, Giffords Law Center. Folks like Every Town for Gun Safety. Folks like Moms Demand Action. These are groups that advocate for the abolishment of the Second Amendment. And some people are saying right now, well, we don't believe in abolishing the Second Amendment. That's not what they advocate for. If you gut it, you abolish it. If there is any part of shall not be infringed that is removed, meaning you start infringing, then yes, you're talking about abolishing, or at the very least, ignoring the Second Amendment. But that's where those resources and that's where those monies are going. So that's where your tax dollars, where your children's tax dollars, your grandchildren's tax dollars, and probably their children's tax dollars are going to be going to, because that's about how long it's going to take to pay some of this stuff off. Anyway, so that's it. If you want to check that out, that article is over at Bearing Arms, written by our good friend, Mr. Tom Knighton, who's always keeping us on our toes, letting us know about good stuff going on there at the federal level. All right. Well, next, it looks like we have our parting shots. That's right. Our parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. That's hogholsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. When you go there, check it out. I know you're going to want to get a holster. Make sure you use the discount code. It's right here, folks. The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your holster and get your discount today. All right, our first our first one that comes up. This was actually an image that was tweeted out by Mr. Elon Musk today, and I ain't gonna lie, I don't always, and as a matter of fact, I very rarely reply to tweets, but I was very, very tempted to reply to this one. For those of you who are just listening to the program, it's got it's got a picture of Neo, right? He's got his shades on, and it's got the Matrix going through him, and it says, "What if I told you the only way to escape the Matrix is to unlearn everything that you have been taught and rebuild your entire belief system based on critical thought and analysis?" My response to him was this is something that I've tried to do every day. As I always like to say, I was not born I was not born a Republican. I've not always been a Republican, wasn't raised as a Republican, but I was always raised as a conservative. And when I decided to make the change from being a Democrat to being a Republican back not long after I graduated from college, it was because I had to do just this. I had to take a look at those things. I had to take a look at policies and what they stood for. And from there, I had to decide, okay, well, what's consistent with what I believe? And while not everything that the Republican Party was promoting in terms of policy or things that they were saying was exactly what I believed, the values that they espoused through their platform just happened to be what I believed. It was way more consistent than what the Democratic Party stood for. But I guess what I'll say is this: is what I would hope is that we could all do this, not so much so that in the end we'll all agree, but if your positions are based on critical analysis, critical thought and analysis, then at the very least, when we start talking about the issues of the day, we can have an intellectually honest and possibly fruitful discussion about those items, right? We can actually talk about them, as opposed to, being called racist just because I disagree with you, right? Just because I disagree with you, you are now racist. Or I'm going to call you an idiotic, evil liberal because, I disagree with you. If at least we are being critical in our thinking, at the very least, we can learn something from one another. And who knows, maybe even then find a common ground upon which most of us can stand. Because let's just be honest, there are whacked out people on the left and there are whacked out people on the right. But most of us, although some of us are a little further right or a little further left, there are a good percentage of us that are open and willing to at least listen and conversate. But if your position is coming from complete and utter ignorance, I can't help you. There's nothing I can do with that. And that it's no more evident anywhere than in the conversation about guns. Anyway, I'll move on to my next one. Let's see here. Here's an interesting one. Okay, so this one's got Biden. Now, this has got a picture of Biden. It says, Biden condemns Greg Abbott's migrant buses to Kamala Harris's home, calls it cruel, dangerous, and a shameful stunt. So, sending illegal aliens to our neighborhoods is compassion. I'm assuming this is from someone who lives in a border state, a borders town. That's compassion. But sending them to rich, elite Kamala Harris's is cruel. Please get real. Here's one way in which I will say that the president is right when sending them there is cruel. Because you know what? The people in the border states, at the very least, it's not that they don't care and not that they don't want to. I mean, even though they know and they recognize that this is illegal, nobody wants to see harm come to these folks. They really don't. They really want to do what they can. They do their best to take care of them. They're not pretending. Whereas when you send them to places like, to Kamala Harris, when you send them to some of these liberal places, they pretend to care about them. They pretend like, oh yeah, this is a big deal. And, we need to protect these people and we need to give them everything. We are a sanctuary community, meaning we need to provide them food. We need to provide them shelter. We need to provide them education. We need to provide them with a job. We need to provide them with all of these things. And oh, by the way, being here in the United States, even though you came into the country illegally, well, you shouldn't be deported. That's what they believe until these folks are in their neighborhoods. Then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we can't get a bus to get them out of here fast enough. So, yeah, to a certain degree, Biden is right. It is cruel sending them someplace we all know they will not. They claim to want to help them and they claim to want to take care of them, but you and I both know that they won't. Okay, here's this last one, and I came across this last one as it was part of a TikTok, and I couldn't really, because the dubbing and everything of it was kind of off, and I wanted to use it, but I didn't really know if it was real, so I wanted to make sure to check. I did a little searching, and I actually found it on C-SPAN. I found this little snippet on C-SPAN. Now, this is Joe Biden running for president in 2008. And he was asked a question about the war in Afghanistan and Democrats' position on getting out of the war, getting out of that war in Afghanistan. And I wish that 2021 Joe Biden had stopped for a moment and went back and listened to 2008 Joe Biden. And then maybe many of our allies and many of our people would not have been trapped in Afghanistan after we basically cut and run. Check it out.
So the question is, in order for us to have the credibility to be listened to again, we got to deal with this war. We got to deal with this war. This war must end. We must end this war, and we must end it in a way where we tell the American people the truth. I've been criticizing this administration for 7 years. I've been, as the press often says, his harshest, and I would respectfully suggest, his most accurate critic. And guess what? I say tell him to tell the truth. We got to tell the truth. There's a lot at stake in how we end this war. It makes a big difference how we end this war. And it makes a big difference to tell the American people the truth about what our options are in ending this war. If tomorrow the order goes out from I'm President of the United States, I issue an order, end the war today, begin to withdraw all American troops. It will take a year to get the American troops out. Do you hear me now? That's the truth. It will take a year to get them physically out. Now, if you leave all the equipment behind, you might be able to do it in 7 months. And you leave those billions of dollars of weapons behind, I promise they're going to be used against your grandchild and mine someday. So it matters. And so again, the truth. We all of us running for office, we know Democrats are against the war. So what we want to do, there's this race to prove to you I can get out faster than the other guy. But it's pretty misleading.
Is that what it was? It was a race to get out faster than the other guy. That's what you meant. And by the way, folks, let me correct myself. That was from 2007. He was running for president leading up into the 2008 election. But catch what he said there. He talked about how if you leave, he said in 7 months is what it would take. And by the way, he said it would take a year if you did it right. If he gave the order day one, it would take a year. 7 months if you left all the equipment. And what did he say? Trust me, if you leave all those weapons behind, they will be used against you and against your children and against your armed services. Really? How did he forget? Well, I imagine he forgets a lot these days. But anyway, this is something that, should he run for president again, this is a video that should go viral. This should be in whoever's running against him, this should be in their campaign commercial. Because if there is one thing if you only had one thing to point to, if they only allowed you one thing to point to prove that his administration is an utter failure, the withdrawal from Afghanistan would in fact be it. It was a complete and utter failure. And by the way, he predicted it. He predicted if he did what he did, it would be a failure. And guess what? It was. All right, folks. Well, hey, before we go, let's give another quick shout out to our sponsors. That's right, Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net. Go there, get you rifle and pistol barrels. Check them out. Make sure, once again, tell them the guys over at the Rundown sent you. Also, the California Republican Assembly. Be a part of California's future today. Join the California Republican Assembly. Also, go to Hog Holsters. That's hogholsters.com. Get your Hog Holster and use the discount code, The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your discount today. And finally, if you're looking for combat gear, tactical gear, outdoor gear, go to uscombatgear.com. And with that, folks, I just want to wish you all a very, very happy New Year. I will be looking forward to seeing you on Monday, where we will be beginning with episode 1 of season 3 of The Rundown. We want to thank you all for, once again, for helping to make this show a success, continuing to make this show a success, and for joining us. And once again, we very much appreciate you on behalf of Mike and myself. Once again, Happy New Year, and we'll see you again in the new year. Holler later.